Ota for divorcing my wife, I to 6N, and my ex-wife to 6F, were what you'd call high school sweethearts. We as a couple had been through thick and thin, a long-distance relationship, bigoted parents, and quasi-homelessness. Not every person is privileged enough to have such a partner. Whatever social, financial standing we had, we achieved it together. That only adds a sense of unparalleled respect to the already immense love I felt and still feel for her. So anyways, back in March, she broke the news that she was pregnant. This was not, in any way, a planned pregnancy. I can safely say a baby was not in any checklist I had at the time, primarily because I felt I wasn't ready to take on the responsibilities of a father, and the fact that I know my parents, who are longing for a grandchild, would never acknowledge any I had with my wife. But she single-handedly convinced me that this was a feasible endeavor, and I quite possibly the best flipping thing that would ever happen to us, period. Ever since I saw my little girl in that ultrasound, I've developed this bond that transcends all others. My wife couldn't have been happier. Fast forward to months late May, my wife had done a complete 180. One afternoon, she abruptly said that she no longer wanted to raise our daughter. I was instantly taken aback, and ever since then, it had been a true hell for me. Me and the in-laws tried finding the reason behind this sudden change and tried to make her feel comfortable with the choice we've initially made in so many words and action, but to no avail. She was adamant that we put the baby up for adoption as soon as she was born. For clarity, an abortion was never on the cards for anybody here. Not solely because it's borderline inaccessible where we live, but because it's simply inconceivable, even to the woman that no longer wanted the child. I made her know in no uncertain terms that I had no intention whatsoever of putting our baby up for adoption, and she developed this bizarre idea that I've chosen the unborn baby over her, and that, to me, she had become insignificant. I love my wife, but to be perfectly honest, I've grown to love my girl just as much, if not more. The last thing I wanted was to choose between my wife and my child, because either way, I'd be losing something irreplaceable. I felt like I was alone in this because at the end of the day, her parents were first and foremost her parents. I couldn't go to my parents for obvious reasons, or our friends, bless their souls, because they weren't emotionally equipped to handle something of this caliber. I tried to take her to see a therapist many times, but she refused, saying I was trying to build a case for a future custody fight. I was so not. So fast forward to December, we had the baby and she hadn't changed her mind. At that point, I was convinced that this was no longer feasible, and I filed for divorce and sole custody with an added injunction. I have to mention that I had to go to my parents, the last thing I wanted to do, and oh boy, were they giddy, in order to ensure that the district court does take up the case on its own merits, since the chances of a single father all on his own getting custody of a newborn is slim to none. The tame version of what happened next is she flipped out. I can see how, from her perspective, she can see this as a deep betrayal. But what other choice did I have, really? She called me every name in the book. Even her parents, who I was close with more than my own, concurs.